This week in East Brunswick, John Magliaro of Channel 8 met world champion handicap weightlifter Chuck Roedelbronn. An East Brunswick resident, Chuck is just back from England, where he took first place with a lift of over 400 pounds. Following the interview, Adrian Eisner will discuss concert ticket vendors on this week's Consumer Aware. Later we'll show highlights of some of the discussion at this week's Township Council meeting. Now let's join John Magliaro with weightlifting champ Chuck Roedelbronn.
Hi, I'm John Magliaro for This Week in East Brunswick. You know, being recognized as the world's best in any event or any sport is something that we all search for, but few of us ever achieve. But for Chuck Roedelbronn, the title's very much deserving, as last week in England, Chuck won the World Handicap Weightlifting Championship. Chuck, welcome to This Week in East Brunswick.
Nice to be here.
And let me say on behalf of the Township of East Brunswick, I congratulate you for all of us on your fine showing in England.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about it. Were you surprised that you won it?
Well, no, at the time I knew who my competition was.
Mm-hmm.
There was one gentleman from Guatemala who was going to give me a hard time if he was there, but he dropped down. Dropped 11 pounds to get away from me.
All right. You said drop 11 pounds. We're talking about a weight classification.
He dropped
right?
the whole weight class to get away from me because I would have beaten him. He just would have made it a little tougher. He was sleeping in 2 garbage bags and 2 sweatsuits.
Just to avoid
eating
you.
hard-boiled eggs, and for about 4 or 5 days dropped 11 pounds.
Oh my God.
So I won on my first lift.
Which was what? How much
401.
weight? 401 kilos or 401 pounds?
401 pounds, 182.5 kilo.
Now, we did a show about a year ago, and I know you can and have lifted much larger weights.
Oh yeah, my second lift was 192.5, which is 424, and on my third lift I tried 195, which is 197.5, which is 435. I've done 450 in practice.
Were you surprised that the weight itself was going to be low? Did you expect to have to press, better than 400 to win it?
Yeah. Well, the main reason I won a week before in France, they had the European Championships, and the 2 powerhouses, the Swedes and the French, didn't show. So there was one Frenchman that would have beaten me if he was there.
So with
on paper he can beat me.
On paper, right?
If I was there, it might have been a little bit different,
Yeah, Chuck. Obviously, you don't get up in the morning and say I'm going to lift 450 pounds.
No.
Would you tell us a little bit about your training regimen and how you go about training for an event such as the World Championships?
Well, such as the World Championships, really what before it, I'm in shape a month before, a month and a half. So there's really not much hard training involved. What I basically do is do very little repetition with very high weights just to get the coordination in with the heavy weights.
Yeah.
All during the year, like now, I'm going to go on a bodybuilding and swimming program.
Great.
To better my cardiovascular system, get my weight down a little because I have Furniture's disease. My chest sunk into my drawers. So I'll be doing that for a while, and then I'll start to bulk up and powerlift in October. And then after, I'd say after the Olympic trials in March, I'll knock out my assistance exercises, which are dumbbell exercises, and just do strictly benching.
What is a weekly routine for you like? How many hours, how much weight?
About now, Coach and I, Mr. Faith, haven't discussed the training program yet. I would think it'd be 2 hours a day, 3 times a week, maybe 4.
Chuck, how did you qualify for the World Championships?
Oh, in June, I went out to Hawaii for the national championships, and there are 2 qualifying standards you have to meet. First, you have to win your weight class, and second, you have to meet the qualifying weight to go overseas. For me, I think it was around 340 pounds. Give or take a pound. So I just barely made it. I did 425 at the Nationals and missed 445 in my last lift there.
Chuck, I know you're a modest guy, but I think it's important that the people in East Brunswick know some of the awards that you've won over the years in weightlifting.
Well, briefly summarize it. I've been in 43 meets. I've taken 36 gold and 7 silver. I've never taken any less than a 2nd place. I've never lost the Tri-State Championship, which is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. I've won 11 in a row. I haven't lost in the country since 1979.
In this country?
Yeah, and I haven't lost in the new weight class, the middleweight weight class. Last show I was a lightweight.
Great. Chuck, you're talking about Hawaii, France, England. Who pays for all this?
Well, I belong to a team, New Jersey Blue Devils, and we raise money, fundraisers, donations, such as that, and they send me overseas.
Great. Are you the only weightlifter from that club that...
No, we sent another weightlifter over. It was his first time overseas, and he came in fourth. His name's Tommy McDonald. He's from Scotts Plains, New Jersey. He did very well. He's a lightweight.
Right.
He did very well for his first time over there.
Chuck, if you would, handicap weightlifting is different, obviously, than the regular Olympic weightlifting that we see. I assume it's only bench pressing.
Yes, it is, and the bench press is different itself. What it is we'll start on, there's stands on either side of the bench, and your legs are up on an extra long bench. And you have to start in a down position. The stands are adjusted an inch above your chest, so the weight's dead.
Right.
In an able body bench press, you're taking the weight off the rack.
Right,
you're introduced to the weight, so you basically know how much force you're going to have to exert. All right. When you bring it down, you're going to get a little rebound from the bar. It's going to snap. The rebound theory is going to come into play. The way we do it, we're starting dead. We don't know what the weight's going to feel like, and you don't get too much snap. Because if you jerk the bar real fast, it's too much of a shock on your muscles. You'll probably pause, and if you pause on the way up, and
that's it.
It's an incomplete lift. If you go up unevenly, also incomplete lift.
And you must extend the arms.
Yes, full extension. So what we have to do is we have to have very, very good explosion. You have to lean into it. You have to have good inner chest strength to do it like that.
Chuck, it's amazing. Your personal thoughts on the World Championship. Has it hit you yet?
It didn't hit me until I was coming home last week on a plane, because Tommy was a little upset, Tommy McDonald I spoke of. He had missed his last lift, which was easy for him. He was doing it at the end of practice, and that's a weight that you usually start with. And I told him, I says, look, you're fourth in the world. And and then it hit me, well, I come in first, you know? I just sat back and thought, well, hey, you're first. And we had a nice party when I come back, and I was talking to a lot of people I haven't talked to in a while, and I guess after hearing the congratulations,
it hits home, yeah.
See, I'm also a perfectionist. I know there's a man ahead of me, even though he didn't show. He pushed the world record up to 473. It used to be 451. I was hoping to break it there if I had to. So I know he can beat me.
Can you break it?
I'm going to have to. The Olympics are going to be in Champaign-Urbana next year in Illinois. And
in your backyard, so to speak.
More or less, and I haven't lost in the country since '79, and this meet will be his last hurrah. He's 41 years old, so he wants to go out a winner.
And he doesn't want the young guy beating him.
No, he doesn't, but he's going to have to learn to adjust to that.
Chuck, stay with us. We'll get back to you later to see your training workout, but I'd like to bring in your coach, Carl Faith.
Good enough.
We now have Carl Faith, who's the coach and trainer of Chuck Roedelbronn. Carl, you've got to be proud in your protege.
I'm very happy.
Any surprises?
No, I thought he could do it this year. I just felt that he had to get his mind into gear, and I felt he could do it.
What's next for Chuck? What do you foresee?
Well, I see the Olympics next year, and I also see a world's record, but he has to train. You know, he's really got to.
What are we talking about in weight? World's record?
World's record in weight?
Yeah.
I guess it's around, what, 470? 473.
473 pounds. How much does Chuck weigh?
Right now, sometimes it's difficult to ascertain his weight. I would say 154. 160.
160.
Okay.
So he's close to pressing 4 times his weight.
4 times?
Well, better than 3 times.
Better than 3 times, yeah.
Is that unusual in handicap weightlifting?
Yeah, I think it's kind of unusual. Yeah.
Carl, you know, training is. How do you get him to train? With any athlete, it's difficult.
Well, the athlete basically has to convince himself that he wants to do it.
Yeah.
You can't force anyone to train. You can guide them as far as certain principles of training are concerned, and you can urge them, and you can also entice them, I guess, somehow, to train, you know, by working on their mind periodically. All athletes go through phases, though.
Sure.
And the mind is the most critical.
I would think with weightlifting, it's kind of a lonely training.
Well, especially for Chuck, because most of his training takes place in his beloved basement, which he calls endearingly the dungeon, okay? So, and then once in a while, we take him to other places to train where there are some other human beings in attendance.
That's nice of you.
So, and we get him out of the cellar once in a while.
Sure.
But it's very difficult. It's very difficult to motivate yourself.
I would think so,
which he has to do. Otherwise, the weights won't go if you don't motivate yourself.
Sure. Carl, I want to thank you for being with us.
Okay.
Hope to have you again.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
It's my pleasure.
We're pleased to have with us this evening Mr. and Mrs. Roedelbronn, Chuck's mom and dad. Mrs. Roedelbronn, you've got to be very pleased with your son's performance.
Oh, yes, very.
Did he call you, or did you know about it beforehand, or was oh, Mom, guess what? Kind
Well,
of
he
thing?
called. I mean, the night he called, he sounded very tired, but he was very happy.
Great. Mr. Roedelbronn, I know you're pleased, obviously.
Very proud, very proud. It's a long time coming. We knew we could do it, and just a matter of time maturing, and we thought about 22, 23 years old, he'd make it. And I think the next thing, really, he's going to set a record. He's got it in him, and just going to be a lot of practice, that's all.
You both encourage him, obviously. Is it difficult at times as parents?
We could encourage him when he was younger, but not now anymore.
Now he just suggests.
He's always had a lot of drive. He's, since, I guess, 2 years old, he had to be operated on when he was 10 years old. And from that point on, the doctors were amazed because usually a child with that operation doesn't eat. And he just kept eating and eating and eating, and from that point on, he just kept progressing. And he's had a number of operations, and each operation never set him back. He used to play out here in the street in a wheelchair with his one leg up in a cast.
Amazing.
Then he had another operation where he was up into a cast in his waist, and we built him a 3x4 board with rollers on it. He used to roll up and down the block on that, so you just couldn't hold him down. And eventually he got into the weightlifting, and he wanted to compete in sports, and naturally he couldn't. And he was lucky to find Carl Faith, who's done an awful lot for him, and he is the gentleman who actually introduced him to the sport. And that really made his life, I think, for him. And it came at a good time in his life, really. And he's just been moving forward ever since.
Well, with kind of support that you and your wife provide, Chuck, and that of Carl Faith, I can't see that he won't go as far as he wants to go with it. I want to thank you both for being with us this evening.
It's our
Thank you.
pleasure.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And again, I want to say on behalf of East Brunswick that we are very proud of Chuck Roedelbronn, and we wish him continued success. For This Week in East Brunswick, I'm John Magliaro.
Hello, I'm Adrienne Eisner of the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. Welcome to Consumer Aware. Many of us have experienced a situation where we have wanted to purchase tickets to a theatrical production, concert, or sports event, only to find that the only tickets that were available were through a ticket scalper, an individual who charges exorbitant amounts for these tickets. However, as of August 11, 1983, this is no longer the case in the state of New Jersey. A recently enacted law prohibits any individual from ticket scalping. A person may not engage in the business of reselling tickets for places of entertainment in the state of New Jersey without obtaining a license issued by the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs and maintaining a bona fide place of business located in the state of New Jersey. Ticket scalping was a problem that affected not only people who bought tickets at very high prices, but also those who were deprived of the opportunity of obtaining tickets because they were removed from the market by the ticket scalpers. Licensed ticket agents will offer tickets for shows at a $3 commission for less expensive tickets, those selling for $15 or less, and at a commission of 20% for higher priced tickets. Tickets will be sold only at a place of business that is licensed by the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs. Every ticket purchaser must be given a receipt which indicates the amount of money paid, the amount of commission that was charged, the event, and the location of the event. The ticket seller is required to keep a copy of this receipt. The seller is permitted to advertise only concerts that are scheduled to occur on a particular date and at a specific place of entertainment. He or she cannot offer or give anything of value to an employee of a place of entertainment in exchange for or as an inducement to special treatment with respect to obtaining tickets. Provisions of this act will not apply to any person who sells, raffles, or otherwise disposes of the tickets for a bona fide nonprofit or political organization, as long as the premium proceeds are devoted to the lawful purposes of the organization. Violation of the ticket scalping law is punishable by a fine of up to $7,500 and up to 6 months in jail. If you become aware of any individual who is selling tickets in violation of any of the provisions of the New Jersey ticket scalping law, please contact us at the East Brunswick Consumer Affairs Office. You can reach us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. Our telephone number is 390-6954. And thank you for joining me on Consumer Aware.
At this week's Township Council meeting, the Septic Systems Management Area program was the first on the list of priority discussion. Due to changes in the state DEP policy, available monies for the program were severely cut back. Discussion revolved around alternatives to the original plan. Township Administrator John Runyon outlined the DEP stance on funding in general terms.
We won't give you the 1.6 million. We'll give you probably $400,000 or $500,000, and you must fund the rest locally.
Okay,
But if we give you the 400,000, you've got to spend the 1.6, or we won't give you the 400,000.
well, is there some sort of descending order of contribution from the state?
No, it's all or nothing. And so what I'm saying is, let's not spend the $5,000 or $10,000 it would take to revise the application. Let's spend it to study the problem in Colonial Estates and see what we can do to fix it. Because it is the only area of concentrated problem that we know about.
That's basically where my concern is. I'm not familiar with Colonial Estates. Is that Dorothy
Colonius.
and Karen Drive or something?
Karen's next over, but it's very close in.
Okay, and we have documented that there are problems in this area.
Yes.
How many homes?
30.
And basically each and every home has a problem? Majority of them have a
About
problem? Half of them?
But it affects all of them.
Yes.
I think that there is we have documented many more failed systems in that whole area than the Colonial Estates through the health department in terms of our own documentation, or we would never have gone into the SSMA to begin with. The fact is that during all the years of discussion on the SSMA, even though we knew that there were failed systems there, people were telling us there were not failed systems. The only people who have admitted that they have failed systems are the people in the Colonial Estates area. And since we cannot go on site to inspect, unless we are allowed on site to inspect, you can only deal with those people who admit that they have failed systems. And so if everybody else is saying, we don't need it, we don't want it, and I was the only person, I'm the only person on the council now who supported that SSMA program, because I really felt that there was a need for it. But I remember distinctly people coming to us, first of all, because they were scared to death that they were going to have sewers put in there, and they said they did not need sewers. So we're not going to have sewers. We're going to do the SSMA program, inspect the septic systems. If there's a problem with the septic systems, you can join on a sort of a menu basis and select the service you want to pay for that to keep the septic systems going. And what they said was, we do not have a problem with septic systems. When the council passed the resolution to authorize the grant application, I remember specifically Mrs. Miklas asking me what we would do if we did not get the grant. And my reply was, if we don't get the grant, then we'll have to rethink the whole thing because we cannot do it on our own. And I think we've gotten to that point. And I think there's one other factor that ought to be mentioned. The fact is that people from that area went down and lobbied the DEP and said that they did not want this grant approved. We received memorandums from the DEP to that effect, so that they lobbied against it. So what the people in the SSMA area were saying is they don't want sewers, they don't want the SSMA, they have absolutely no problem whatsoever. So I think, fine, we accept them at their word. Where there's one area that says we do have a problem, let's look at it and see what we can do about it.
Also discussed was a loan request from the Brookview Fire Company. Representatives from Brookview were on hand to explain their requests.
We have some serious safety violations, and what we're proposing to do in our capital budget is to make some modifications to the existing building, and what we need is funding for these modifications. And instead of going out for a commercial loan, we figured first we'd approach the township and see if we could finance it through the township in the form of a low-interest loan, no-interest loan, or some other means, and thereby keep the money in the township instead of going out to a commercial venture. And that's basically it. We do have...
Mayor Fox made recommendations to the council, which were later adopted.
My recommendation that we simply establish in detail what the cost of this is and appropriate that amount to them as an appropriation as opposed to a loan. I mean, it's wonderful to talk about a loan, except that what we then do is impose an additional burden on the firemen for fundraising. And the fact is that they need all their energy and time for training and for responding to fires and what have you. And it doesn't take being out there more than a couple of times at 2 o'clock in the morning when it's 10 degrees to know how hard they work and how much they put into it.
The council also discussed the fate of a $75,000 loan lent to the community players for renovation of Playhouse 22. The players will be unable to make their initial payment this year due to cost overruns. Although both Mayor Fox and Councilman O'Connor support forgiveness of the loan in its entirety, it was finally decided that a 2-year moratorium on payments would be enough to get the players on their feet financially.